Wow, crazy. So we are going live real quick, and I'm listening to the sound on the monitor that I'm just keeping an eye on YouTube, and thinking it was the monitor for my cameras. So I'm a couple seconds behind and a lot of button pushing and oh craps, right? So good morning. And if you're up this early, what the heck's wrong with you? I just wanted to go online real quick. I was trying to fix some issues yesterday when I went live and the live chat hadn't popped up. And I think it all came down to a new tablet that I use. I just sit on my desk, my tying desk, while I'm tying, and I just watch YouTube videos and answer emails and stuff like that. Just not being compatible. Like, I don't know what this new tablet. It's a nice little tablet. The videos look great, but it's just, it doesn't. Using YouTube, I can't reduce the size of the screen I'm watching and then scroll through and see what I'm going to look at next while I'm still watching a specific video. And then yesterday might have been the first time I used it as the monitor for the show, or for what I was showing on YouTube. But by no means do I have a legit show, I don't think. But I couldn't do a live chat, and I know there were people that were coming in and out. And the one person that was trying to send me stuff was a guy I fish with here locally, so nobody wants him to watch, right? I don't. I know what he'll tell me. He'll email me and tell me how dumb I am, right? Or text me. But so here we are. Good morning. I've been tying yesterday. I was tying a whole bunch of stuff. Mainly the bearded banana, and I was doing the Barumba heads, and after doing a few dozen, I was so annoyed at, how's my volume? Holy crap. So I was so annoyed at how the live stream went. I stopped tying after a few dozen. Finished up the rumor heads. I still have one more dozen of these nice big 5/8 flats, and I mostly sprayed these just because I had so many extra blanks in my inventory, and they're just a big surface that I can spray on and really see how the paint works. So I have a few of those. I was just going to tie up and stick them in my boxes just to get them off my table, and then I tied another 4 dozen of this little white ice jig. I did a video on 2 or 3 videos ago using that orange ice dub, a ginger hackle, and it's just a plain white. And I painted these up mostly to see how using the airbrush paint for the nose, how that would go on. 90% of my heads, 99% of my heads are epoxy. We've discussed that before. That's no massive secret. And the jigs that you've seen, what we do, that red and white jig recently, the white jig with the red nose, we've probably seen, I'm looking at my dad's hat right now, hanging up on my mount. The fluorescent yellow with the orange nose, the white with the black nose. I think I've shown all those before. Those were epoxy paint, and the nose, that fluorescent nose, was enamel. I have a couple gallons still. And the stuff works great. It's buoy paint, so it's fluorescent buoy paint that they use to paint buoys that are floating out in the ocean, and that's what we would use for our fluorescent colors and doing that nose. The red was the red and black. Of course, they're not fluorescent. The white and the red and the white and the black, those were also enamels. So doing that that 50-50 or that diagonal paint on the nose. What is wrong with me? Holy goodness. So doing that diagonal paint on the nose took a little bit of time with the enamels, and that buoy paint even had an extra step because it doesn't dry glossy, it dries quite dull. So using the airbrush paint being the polymer acrylic, kind of speeding up the process now. So you know, these paints that I recently discovered, they've been around a long time, but you know, I've searched and searched for years, and slowly finding some use that will help me out with my production without changing the quality. So that's what I was doing with the paint, and messing around with that. That's why I had those ice jigs that I just want to get off my rack right now. Like I said, I did 4 dozen plus the other 3 or 4 dozen that we tied back when I made the original video. Those go in my inventory. This ice season is looking to be a bust. You know, I have to travel 40 minutes away at least for small lakes that have safe ice right now, and go even farther north if I want to go on a larger lake. Oneida still hasn't frozen completely. Some of the bays had ice, and I'm not even sure right now how they're doing as of Friday. So, but I decided to turn the cameras on, and one of the things that I've been working on and I have an idea to use a fly rig for walleye in a couple spots this spring and summer. And so yesterday I was tying up, let me get my face out of there. Yesterday I was tying up some flies like so, things like this. I had on my other rack some flies that I did a video maybe a year, a little bit longer ago, where I tied a Susquehanna streamer. So this streamer, this type of streamer, kind of loaded up with a lot of hair. It's a pretty heavy, you know, it's got as much hair as a jig would. This one was the example from the video using that herder's hook. I have a couple boxes of those vintage herder's hooks that my father would tie and fish here locally in the Susquehanna River. He was born in Scranton, and the family moved to Binghamton. My grandfather was a glass blower for IBM. The original IBM plant was here locally. Here was my version from the video, and this is using the I think it's a Daiichi hook, 1750. I left the pack over there because I was typing it in. Actually, I have to get that if we're going to do a sample. Darkman, good morning. What the heck are you doing up this early? So good, the live chat is working. It was a few minutes before I looked down. This screen, it's not really propped at an angle. I'm a mess this morning. So yeah, that hook is a Daiichi 1750. It's a size 4. That's what I've been tying them on. I got an order out for a couple different styles of hook for what I'm trying to figure out. These herders hooks, you know, I don't want to use up. I think these are an 8 or a 10. Can't remember. I'll have to look up what these herders hooks are. But I think this would be a little bit big for what I want. I like the Daiichi 4s because, let's see. So here's the Daiichi in the one of the flies I was tying yesterday. And what I was looking for is something that would be about the size of a jig. And though the profile is a little bit more streamlined and thin, the length is, you know, the eyes line up and the tails line up. So aside from this little bit on the nose, these are the same length. So what I've been studying lately, just a couple videos that caught my interest. Let me go back just a little bit. So I've done videos, I've done at least 2 videos on what guys called here locally a Susquehanna streamer. It was fished in the Susquehanna River and the Shenango River here locally, and it was just a streamer fly that had a weight 8 to 12 inches up the line, and you would cast it out and kind of pull it or jig it sideways. In Mike Vala's book on streamers, the one that came out a couple years ago, I'll put in the descriptions after the video exactly what book that is, but it was, you know, one of his books on Catskill streamers. There's a paragraph or two. He grew up in Binghamton. He's probably about the same age as my dad. I wonder if they knew each other. I'm not, you know, I don't know. But he talks about fishing the Shenango right along the stretch that goes along from I want to say Deposit. It's not Deposit. It's Hillcrest into Binghamton. Otsiningo Park is right there, and there's a couple islands. So he talks about growing up as a boy, and you wade across to those islands, and it's your own little playground. And he, you know, fished from all sides and pulling these bucktail streamers. So did the video. I've fished these a little bit when I was younger too. So that, you know, just kind of messing around on YouTube and going down a couple rabbit holes, I had found guys that were fishing Wisconsin rigs, or also called a Wolf River rig, and they had a three-way. There was a three-way rig with a pencil sinker, and they had 3 flies tied on it, just regular bucktails, nothing terribly fancy, and we're fishing for white bass and walleye. A couple videos I watched, guys were also grabbing a pike or two, which was exciting. So it got me thinking about a couple of the rivers that I fish locally, mostly from shore, that this actually might work really, really well. There's a spillway locally that is terribly rocky, and even experienced fishermen will lose half dozen jigs or so, or lose a jig every 3 or 4 casts. If I'm in a section where I'm losing a lot of jigs, I actually switch over to rubber tails. I don't mind losing the lead necessarily, don't like it, but I'd rather lose a rubber tail than a hair jig. Though the last time I was there, we did really well, and I only lost a couple jigs, but I was there for a couple hours, so it wasn't a big deal. In the vise, I just put that number 4 hook, the 1750 Daiichi. I'm going to lock in. I'm going to lock on some size A thread. We'll just do one of these real quick. I haven't completely decided on the streamer pattern, and I'm nothing against the Wisconsin guys, but those hair streamers look ridiculous. They look awful. They're tied super sparse, super cheesy. They work, nothing against them. A lot of them seem to be just a bare hook with just a chunk of hair on it like that, and I'm not sure how, with that such a gap like so, fishes, because I would think that the hook would ride parallel in the water column, but the hair would, even with the water flowing over it, I don't think the hair would really compress down. And then some, you see the hair completely covers the hook like so, and again, it just looks kind of hideous. So what I've been doing, and my example, by no means, this is not a finished product for me. I'm going to try to fish something like this, and I think it's tied okay. Head's okay. I haven't switched. What I'll do to when I do settle on a pattern is I'll switch over from the round thread head, which it's a little difficult to make the nice pretty head with the round thread, so I'll use a regular fly tying thread, a nice flat thread, unwaxed, to do my heads. But this is closer to what I'm looking for. I'm going to do some with the wings on the bottom. I'm going to do some with the wings, like I said, more at a cockeyed angle. And then I'm going to fish these in the spring and summer. I just think they would be really good in these rocky areas that we struggle with, but we know that there's, we fish them because every 4 or 5 trips you do pull out some nice fish. So that high, when we've been skunked or lost so many jigs that we're mad when we leave, there's always that time you go back and you get a big enough fish where it like feeds that addiction, right? So let's continue with this. So I put on a layer of size A thread, loose wraps. They're kind of open. Touching wraps is ideal, though this is kind of loose because I know that I'm going to go back over. I'm going to use, I just happen to have this piece of tinsel on my table. This is old, I think it's called Flyrite. I found a case, I found a full case and 75% of another box full of this old Flyrite tinsel. This is actually metal, it's not Mylar. It's silver on both sides, and on that roll, this section's pretty good. Maybe on this, I don't know if it shows up on the video, but this was the part of the tinsel that was on the outside of the spool that's discolored. It's some of it looks a little rainbowy. I'm assuming, what is this, maybe nickel plated, I'm guessing. I would have to research on exactly what it is, but they're small little Flyrite spools of metal tinsel. I saved this for special stuff, but I wanted to use it and see what it looked like, and it was a little bit thicker than the Mylar tinsel that I had. So anyways, I'm going to lock this on here in the back, a couple wraps towards the bend of the hook, and then with touching wraps I'm going to walk that thread all the way up to the eye. Now this is size A thread for a couple reasons. It's cheap, it's durable, this texture, I believe, with the streamers adds a little bit of resistance in the water if you were trolling this or in the current. So it that little bit of extra drag does pull the fly down just a little bit, as opposed if I just had a nice smooth floss body. This tinsel, even though it's metal, I do not believe it adds very much weight at all. This is actually quite thin. I'm going to do a couple wraps towards the bend of the hook before angling it back and doing the barber pole up the shaft. So this adds a little bit of flash. Some of the Wisconsin flies that I saw would just do no thread and just a solid, almost like a what's the name of the streamer? Mickey Finn. A nice silvery body. That last wrap I pulled to the outside of my bobbin so I can pick up my bobbin and lock this right into place. A few wraps forward and then a few wraps back over the tinsel. Don't want to use good scissors on metal. And then tie this off. So normally I would do a dozen or so of these at a time. Add some head cement just to add a little bit of durability and help with that shine. Oh, here's my Mylar. So normally I would use this, it's gold on one side, silver on the other, just regular Mylar tinsel. Thought I'd put that away. And the colors I was using for this was this green chartreuse, and I have a nice steel gray. Two colors that I really like using in the river locally. And where's my black thread? So I got some black. This is a 2/0. There's no label on this anymore, but it's a 2/0 Danville nylon thread. Go ahead, lock this into place. I did leave about a full eyes gap between the eye of the hook and the thread. Nice, Sam. Why are you up so early? It's my son-in-law. Sam, if you're still on, I want to try using a couple of these rigs maybe down your way. They say they work for bass. I think we need to, I think we need to get some of those Harrisburg walleyes eventually. Maybe that's a springtime trip. So I lock on the 2-aught thread. Gonna go with this green chartreuse, and you have to go fairly sparse with these. And I'm gonna tie this a little bit differently than the example. So I prep the hair just like I'm tying a jig. Just restack. Take out a couple of the long ones just to thin out the pinch a little bit. A couple of hairs that are crooked. And I think with this, I want to try to tie it not under necessarily, but around. So, and just like with the jigs, I want the tail to extend the length of the body past the bend of the hook, which is just past this 4th marking on my vise. I'll trim it. And then I'm going to put it on from the top, but kind of let these hairs, so I locked it on with 3 wraps towards the bend of the hook, and then I'm going to pull straight up with a little bit more firm of pressure, so it pulls that hair straight down. I don't want it to twist really, but I'm also going to add a little bit of pressure and just let the hairs extend around the hook shank just a little bit. So there you can see there's still a little bit of space where you can see the hook shank on the very bottom, but the hairs are more parallel to the hook shank as opposed to riding at an angle. And then we'll add this steel gray. You're caving nice. So here we have a pinch of that steel gray, again restacked, just pulling out some of these shorter hairs just to thin this just slightly. A couple broken tips. And we want this to, I want to measure it so it's the same length, but when we place it on, I'm going to place it just slightly back from the ends of my wrap, or slightly back from the ends of the green chartreuse, but not past that wrap. So there's going to be a little bit of a space, which will help the top wing just extend ever so slightly. I don't like a big difference in the top wing. I'd rather them be identical or just a hair longer, not too much. I think it does. It doesn't look as exaggerated as it would when the flies get wet, and then you really see the differences in length, even if at that small when the difference is so small. Do I know what I'm talking about 100%? No. A lot of this is what I'm doing is testing. It's going to be trial and error. I might tie a couple flies and they look awful in the water, don't catch any fish, but the exact same color pattern with maybe a longer wing, and that's the fish. That's the streamer I'm catching all the fish on. So I'm trying to design a streamer, kind of merge some of those what we've learned and those set in stone patterns that we have from the guys from New England, from the guys from the Catskills, from the guys out west, and also combine that with what the guys on Wolf River in Wisconsin, what they're actually using, which I think are ugly, and I'm trying to find a nice happy medium between those two. I don't want to tie a Carrie Fisher fly, but I also don't want to I don't want to tie the ugly flies. I was looking at flies for sale, $5 a piece for just practically a bare hook and a single wing. I'll tie them for you for $1 a piece. If it kills me. Like, I don't get it. Sorry. I'll sell them to you wholesale for 75 cents a piece. So I was shocked. So this top wing, I'm trying to add a little gap here at the end. Very light wrap to lock this on. So there's 3 light wraps towards the bend of the hook, and I haven't put any pressure on this yet. My last strap's going to go around, and I'm going to pull straight up before I complete this. Couple wraps towards the eye of the hook to lock that in place so I can move my hand. Pulling straight up, what that does is it pulls the pressure directly straight down onto that top wing, so you don't get any roll, because I want that separation between the bottom wing and the top wing, and that showed up well. So now we can finish this. I've brought my wraps towards the eye of the hook. I'm going to wrap this as best I can back and forth to build up the head, and you might notice as I'm tying this that the thread rolls every once in a while. The wrap will roll forward. I'm trying to hide those. I'm going to coat these liberally with head cement. When I get a pattern that I'm completely happy with, I'll get out the UV glue and use those for my heads. The ones that I'm completely happy with, when I settle for completed jig pattern, or fly pattern rather. What are we doing on time? I know the rest of the house is going to start getting up soon. I got to take my son to work, drop him off. Alright, and that's not the ugliest head I've ever seen. It's not the prettiest either. So, but we will tie this off. We'll finish this off with our whip finish tool. 3 wraps is all you need. And I try to do that farther back on the head, as opposed to at the very end. Turn this off, and then we'll give this a liberal coating of our lacquer based head cement. Sounds like one of the dogs are walking around upstairs. I didn't add any crystal flash. That will be that's another material that I will add, most likely. But I didn't on this because we have that Mylar tinsel on the shank of the hook. So I'm thinking that that's where we're going to get our flash for this. But let me turn my face off and we'll see if we can get a better look at this fly. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any suggestions. If we got guys from Wisconsin, Wolf River, anybody who's familiar with fishing this type of rig and the flies that they use, you know, put something down in the comments there, in the doodly-doo, and just let me know. Give me suggestions. You know, I have ideas in my head. I know what jigs work for the fish that I'm targeting. I have my dad's old, there's another old video going way back, where I found my dad's old fly wallet. For the streamer flies he used, mostly in the Finger Lakes here. They were probably tied early 80s. He probably used them last in the early 80s. I can't think of any fishing trips he took down that way after that. But there, you know, there's a lot of good color combinations and patterns, and peacock herl, I might throw something like that on there instead of crystal flash. But we'll see. I probably won't show a lot of this. I might not do videos showing this until I have some patterns that are nailed down specifically, and then I might do something on how to actually tie these to the line, to the leader. Almost all the videos I saw, that they would try to show it, but you can't see it on the video, and I'm curious exactly how they tie this directly to the leader in the middle but get it to ride in the same direction. I would be afraid that the first fly, if I tied it on and it was slightly cockeyed, and then I tie the middle fly on and it's slightly cockeyed this way, how that's going to track. Or do they all just track in line with the fly at the end of the leader? You know, I know how this would fish if it was a single streamer on the line. So there's little questions like that, and until, you know, we get along a river, you know, with a nice current, or, you know, do some trolling with them, I'm not sure exactly how it would work. But I'm at least excited to try, you know, something new. A new technique in fishing spots that I'm familiar with, and see, you know, see if I learn something. I might learn I don't like it, to be honest. So I think that'll do it for this morning. I'm very happy that the live chat worked. That's really what I was trying to figure out. But I was also a little excited about talking about this. I do have a bunch of books coming. The last few videos I did, I brought up a lot of information that I read recently. Ray Bergman, George Herder, reading through a lot of the old fishing books from you know, 40s and 50s, and pulling out some information that's relevant to jig tying. And I just happened to stumble across a couple good deals, so I got some books coming that I'm really looking forward to digging through. I'm not promising anything. It might not have any information that's relevant, or what I tend to find with a lot of these old authors and publications is a lot of times the fishing books are just republished and retitled with the exact same information. As an example, probably the biggest glaring example I have, my favorite all-time Catskill tyer, Reuben Cross. Love this guy. His personal history, or personal story, is a tragic story in a way. and somebody as great as this tire, and how things didn't quite work out in the long run, you know, in the end for this tire, how he was so influential to other famous tires, Daiichis and Darby's come to mind, where they were influenced by him, and their success that they seem to still have, which isn't, I don't believe, is 100% accurate. I'm sure if you sat down with any of the family members and talked to them, they probably have the same story as all tires. It's feast or famine. You might be famous. I'm YouTube famous, right? I got a whole 400 some odd followers, right? I'm a huge influencer on the YouTube. But it might be a craft that they've done for generations, but that fame does not always go along with fortune, and vice versa. And there's all those, you know, personal, tragic kind of stories that are woven into life in general. So I guess what I'm saying is, what I'm getting back to is Rube Cross and his books. I've got 4 books, all different titles of his. They're pretty much identical. One book might have left out a chapter. One book might have added a little bit extra within the chapters, but they're basically just the exact same book published by different publishers. They stick a new dust jacket on it and call it something new. They update a page. So trying to research some of this stuff is disappointing, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I'm not promising anything. So I'm excited for the books that are coming, and I'm looking forward to reading them and trying to pull out some information that will be valuable to advance our discussions with jig tying and what we can relearn, I guess, with the craft. But we'll see. I'm excited to get them, but we'll see. I think that will do it for us today. If you like what we did here, or have any other suggestions, particularly on patterns and critiques of flies that we're going to use on this Wolf River, Wisconsin walleye rig, is what I'm looking to do. Put those comments down below. Go ahead, share any of our videos that we do. It does help increase awareness of the channel, and you know, go have a cup of coffee and eat breakfast. You know, try not to wake up the rest of the family. And as always, keep tying, guys, in tight lines.